Thank you, sir. So, firstly, I just want to give a little bit of information about myself. Actually, Brian was kind enough to call me young Chris earlier on, which was, I haven't heard that phrase for quite some time. But I think, yeah, this is like, I think my 27th year in the industry now, of which I've spent a number of time doing different things, from working with organisations like Computer Centre and BMC and Getronics and 2E2, and then moved over to the world of manufacturers and vendors and spent some time in the software industry, about 8 years now. And interestingly, coming into Infovista, in the time that I've been in the industry, it's probably been the most awakening period in my career in terms of the dynamics that are changing in the marketplace, and the technology and solutions that are around to help deliver against some of those requirements. In a nutshell, because otherwise we could be here all day and I will talk forever if you're not careful, our technology is really allowing people to identify applications which are going to become critical to their business and ensure that they consistently perform in a way which will either allow them to drive incremental revenue, drive productivity, or even make them start thinking a little bit differently in terms of the art of the possible. And that's the art of the possible bit is quite interesting. We'll move on to that a little bit later on. We talk around complex networks, large networks. For us, in reality, our technology is, we don't really mind what technology it sits as the underlying infrastructure. We're agnostic to it. Whether we're working with MPLS or wireless or 3G, 4G, the transport mechanism we're fairly agnostic about. It's more around the ability to start controlling how applications perform. Now, you could say, our application is really something which is important to me, important to my customers, important to my employees. But we're tending to see that more and more reliance is being put on applications in our business. And if you think deeply about all the things that you tend to consume, whether it be out in a retail environment, whether it be now more towards it, moving toward how you react with your car, the whole thing's application-based. It's normally sitting on some kind of device which has either got a processor built into it, and the experience that's received by the person using that is not how that device actually works, it's how the application performs on top of it. Now, there's a typical number of business drivers, and there's a typical set of transformation. And for me, this was kind of the old thinking in terms of, well, let's apply it to something to do with transformation. Transformation is a key word. That's fine. However, we've kind of changed some of the way that we tend to work with our customers, and it's been more around understanding what's important to their customers. How can we grow top-line revenue? How can we make you create more stickiness with your customers, rather than just looking at how can we make your network more efficient. And it's something within our business which we're seeing being asked of us more and more. And that's because we're tending to find, when you find problems within the network associated to applications, it's normally driven by a number of things. As you can see from there, it's mainly perfecting applications which are very sensitive to how they perform over the network. And it's also associated with how do you fix problems. Historically, and not digging at any of my competitors, the easiest thing was either to increase bandwidth or look at some acceleration. And that would be for us the equivalent of putting another lane on the M25. It will probably work for a little period of time, but at some point it's going to get consumed by some form of traffic. And that, in that scenario, it could be any form of application. It could be a lorry, a car, a van, a motorbike. But then within that scenario, there's a certain number of critical applications or mechanisms, which would be like emergency services, which are probably more important than maybe a delivery truck turning up. So we tended to find that originally we had customers who were just looking at increasing bandwidth to solve problems. And people do say that the cost of bandwidth is falling so much that just stick bandwidth on it anyway. But again, it will get consumed. Applications will take up as much as they can, and that therefore creates us a little bit of a problem. So thinking about what does that cause when you see applications not performing, it's associated predominantly with satisfaction. It's associated predominantly with acceptance of using new applications and new process. And it means that failure of applications performing consistently means that people will either revert back to doing something differently or try and again put in a knee-jerk reaction to solve it by putting in more bandwidth. Rather than thinking of it, what should we be doing to deliver an ongoing process and program to allow the deployment of applications, they get into this strange knee-jerk reaction stage. And we're trying to change that. We see also that because of not being able to control applications in a consistent way, it's causing some people to have challenges with actually deploying new. A great example, and I'm sure some of you guys have probably undertaken it, would have been the deployment of Link. Link is normally deployed, and the first thing is that the network goes down. The Link itself is broken into a number of components. Some are not particularly bandwidth hungry, some are terribly bandwidth hungry. But again, we've been pulled back into this thinking about the technology rather than what we should be thinking about at a higher end. And this is a piece that I really wanted to talk to. So it's starting with, as I said very much at the top there, art of the possible. So a number of our conversations that we're now having with our customers has moved from what would have been traditionally talking to IT and the network, and started moving to the guys who are interested in where the business is going, the CMOs, the head of digital, people in charge of change. Because, and you'll see this in an example I've got in a moment, the CMOs have a desire and aspiration to be doing something very different to their competitor, or they have an aspiration in terms of growth, in terms of customer retention, new customers, amount of spend per customer. And for us, it's given us a view to start thinking about the art of the possible. And there's a number of organisations that we start thinking along those lines. Let's give you an example. Diesel, who a clothing manufacturer. Diesel, and I've covered this with a couple of guys in my one-on-one sessions. Diesel make a massive assumption that men between the age of 35 and 45 have difficulty in shopping. And if they're going to go and buy jeans, they're probably buy a pair of Diesel jeans. Now, when they go into that shop, and actually, men don't even try clothes on anymore, but if they do, the idea is they'll walk into the changing room, and one wall of the changing room is a plasma screen. And as you're trying on your jeans, it will show you a pair of shoes, and it'll show you a shirt and a jacket, which would mix very nicely with the jeans you're just about to buy. And on the back of that screen is another one, which a shop assistant sees the things being displayed, and all of a sudden those clothes appear that you can try on with a voucher, which would give you a percentage off if you buy them all at the same time. So the actual goal within Diesel at the time was to take £100 spend into £300 spend. That was it. They didn't mention anything to do with technology. And then they asked for assistance to understanding what the steps we should be thinking about to achieve that end goal. And now if you boil it all the way back down, it does turn into a set of technologies, a set which collaborate with each other and allow you to provide some kind of an experience. For us, it's all application based, again. So for a picture or a video to appear on that screen, it's critical that that performs consistently in a way that you don't receive jitter or the video stutters. So again, to get to that customer experience and get to the area that the CMO wants to get to, we're starting to think more about the art of the possible. I'll give you another couple of examples. Ladbrokes. So Ladbrokes are a big customer for us, and Ladbrokes have gone through quite a transformation in terms of their business in the last sort of 5 years. Historically, a Ladbrokes would have been full of elderly gentlemen looking at horse racing on maybe a TV screen and then disappearing next door for a pint. The business has transformed into a revenue-generating shop on the high street, which is making most of their money around fixed odd betting machines, all of which run an application. Now, when they first rolled out the fixed odd betting machines, we were asked to help them in conjunction with Vodafone, because they knew that this device would consume bandwidth. Now, along with the fact that Ladbrokes would ideally like you to use their Wi-Fi, so that when you run out of money, you can go and get some money off a payday loan company and then spend that as well. but suddenly it was getting consumed by all these apps.